2, 1. Broadcasting tape delayed from the parking lot of Pauley Pavilion, where Ed O'Bannon played his college basketball at UCLA. The Sports Economy Show is on. All right, today's show is about Ed O'Bannon suing the NCAA because they used his name, image, and likeness to make billions of dollars, especially off where the reason he started all this was the EA Sports game, where he said he saw himself playing basketball. I was like, I'm going to get my money for that. So I'm going to read an article about how Ed O'Bannon started at UCLA and then where he ended up at in the Supreme Court, and how NIL money has came about all this, and why everybody should owe Ed O'Bannon a debt of gratitude. Right, Ryan? All right. So the NCAA, absolutely. The NCAA benefited from O'Bannon's time at UCLA and a whole bunch of other players, I'll tell you that, including rebroadcasting his games and licensing the right to video game companies such as EA Sports to feature his 1995 Bruins team that won the national championship. This is the basis for the claim that O'Bannon first brought against the NCAA in 2009, which was challenging the rules that prohibited student athletes from receiving a share of the revenue the NCAA receives from the sale of licenses to use student athletes' names, images, and likenesses. September 30th, 2015, Judge Wilkinson upheld a decision by declaring that NCAA's ban on student athletes' compensation was a violation of federal antitrust law. The ruling set in motion the dismantling of the NCAA's practice prohibiting athletes from being paid for their name, image, likeness, which didn't fully happen until 2021. On June 21st, 2021, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled in favor of Sean Alliston, a former college football running back at West Virginia, and student athletes in the landmark case. Let's see where. In Justice Brett Kavanaugh's concurring opinion, he wrote that the NCAA's business model for using unpaid student athletes to generate billions of dollars in revenue for the colleges raises serious questions under antitrust laws. So the question of athletes that has been debated for my entire life is over. They pay athletes now. So Ed O'Bannon saw himself playing on an EA Sports video game, right? So that's how all this started. He's like, you know what? I'm going to find me a lawyer and I'm going to get paid for this. So the NCAA has been harassing schools for paying players for, like I say, for my entire life. Since the first case I can recall was when Jim Valvano was the North Carolina State Wolfpack was put on probation because he was trying to get shoes from Nike for his players. And they're like, this, basically all this came about over like $2,500 or whatever it was. We know his whole shoe thing. Anyways, he ended up losing his job, and the NCAA is a mess. And that's when I realized this is a communist organization. So the debate of college players getting paid for playing or not being paid for playing because they got a scholarship to college, which equates to money, is a whole deal. So Ryan, when's the first time you can recall a team being put on probation for violation of the NCAA rules?
There's a bunch of them out there, but the first one that comes to mind is John Calipari at Memphis.
Yeah.
Everybody, he's always been, especially those days, he was rumored to be paying players, and Derrick Rose supposedly had somebody take his ACT form and all that. Then there's that Will Wade that coached at LSU a few years ago. He got put on probation and then fired for illegally paying players somehow. That was right before, they were allowed to like a year or two before they started paying players. So a little bit before the time, I guess.
Cheating on a college entrance exam is a little different than paying somebody $50 or buying them a pair of shoes. But
he was paying players too, without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
they've been playing players for a long time. SMU, the football program, there was a big deal for about 2 years that they were giving players money. That's how they were so good for a couple of years. Then the NCAA came down. They used to have this thing called the death penalty. You remember that?
Yeah.
You know, so Alabama received the death penalty several times for different paying players. Kentucky had the death penalty for 2 years, which basically you have no scholarships. University
Was
of New York
that
basketball team.
was that under Eddie Sutton?
Yes, yes. So what happened is it was claimed that Eddie Sutton or an assistant coach sent a player money in the mail, which sounds really weird. So anyway, so somebody reported it, and then they got the death penalty for 2 years because they were paying a recruit. On and on and on. Now, since Ed O'Bannon said, you know what, people aren't going to cheat me anymore. You're not going to put a officially licensed tag of says NCAA on a jersey that has my name on it, and I'm not getting a dime. Like for example, the Michael Jordan brand, right? Everything that's sold that has his little logo up there, right? He gets a small percentage of it. Last year, I read that he made $250 million off the percentage that he gets off the Jordan brand. The Jordan brand sold $7 billion worth of merchandise. Woo! So that's all Ed O'Bannon was doing. It's like, you know what? I should get a little bit of money if you're going to use my name and image on your EA Sports game, right?
Yeah. Back when he was on the video game, I know you couldn't even tell who was
You
even out
couldn't.
there. Them graphics
No.
were horrible.
Yeah, the graphics were horrible, but yes,
Like
but
a bunch of blurry men running around out there.
yeah. But when you went down the list and you could pick these players, it had his name, right? And the
No,
college he
no.
played for. They didn't even
Video
have
game
that.
back then, that was, I believe, why the NCAA was getting away with it for so long because they did not put names on there. It was only numbers.
Oh,
No names.
really? There
Yeah,
was
because
no
I played
names.
them games all the time. I played the NCAA basketball
Yeah.
game and the football. Only numbers out there.
Okay, so you could only pick the school that you were doing. So
Yeah, they had everything, the same players. Like you could tell who was who, but they just had numbers, no names. But
Okay.
they came back out with the NCAA video game, the football game last summer. You aware of that?
Okay.
That it's the first year it started back because now they're paying players, so they're allowed to.
All right. So they
They
actually
came
put their
back out.
names up. They put their
The names
names
are
up
on it.
there.
They got
Yeah.
all the details on it now. The basketball game has not came back yet, but I think it's on its way now that the football game has kind of paved the way for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the EA, they changed the name. It's EA, the EA, yeah, EA NCAA football. I think what they call it now.
Okay. They just don't go just under the heading of EA Sports football
Yeah,
or
they used to just be called NCAA football,
okay.
but now that's got the EA name on it. But
All
I
right.
believe I believe that's paving the way for the basketball game to come back, and then
Yeah.
they'll start paying the basketball players for it. Which
Yeah.
all the football. This is kind of a joke, but they paid the football players $500 for just for them to be on. That's it. $500 is all they got.
Each player or the
Player
whole
got five hundred
team?
dollars,
Okay.
which they were all upset about. There was some guys that even refused to be on the game because that's all you're going to pay me for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you're
all you're
getting
getting.
something now. You didn't get anything before, and you're getting
True.
NIL money. I mean, they're always going to be complaining about something.
Yeah. But I will say this in defense of the game, to pay every player a lot of money would be difficult because,
Oh yeah,
how many games
they
are going
don't
to sell?
they don't look into stuff like that. This video
Yeah.
game is just to make money, not to pay. To satisfy you. They want to
Yeah.
make money. Think about how much $500 times every football player in the country and Power Four.
basically you're looking at, I think the new roster, you can have between
80.
80 and 100
Yeah.
80 and 100 players per
Mhm.
team.
And that probably ain't counting, walk-ons and
Yeah. And then you're like, well, only three players are probably going to be played. Don't you pick a defense and then you pick one or two offensive players or however you play with it. So anyway, it'd be difficult to pay every player, a ton of money.
yeah.
So
But it'll probably be more in the future. They'll go back to
yeah,
court, sue them again. Oh, I got $500. I'm
yeah,
best player on this,
yeah,
best receiver on this game, and I got $500.
yeah. But hey, at least they're giving them something as opposed to,
Yeah,
you get nothing. And that's a whole other deal about paying players like, is this player worth this much versus this player worth that much? Then
that's what you get
then
NIL for right there.
yeah, that's what you have agents for. So anyway, but Ed O'Bannon got this straightened out so players could actually get something because before, um, what's his name, Harbaugh, he got put on probation because he bought a cheeseburger for a recruit that came to visit the team.
He's
You
done a lot
know,
worse than that.
that's like what in the world? And Bruce Pearl had a cookout at his house for some recruits that was outside the like a day or two outside the recruiting window. So when he was at Tennessee, so he got put on probation for that. It's
And
these rules are a mess.
another
So
example is Bruce Pearl's assistant at Auburn, Chuck Persons, that got
yeah,
fired from there.
yeah.
In my opinion, he took the fall for Bruce Pearl again.
Oh, you think that's what it
It was
was?
it was happening again. I think it
That
was.
yeah, because they were saying that well, Bruce Pearl didn't know anything about this. I bet
BS.
he did. I
Yeah.
bet he knew all
You
about
ain't
this.
fooling me. I wasn't born
How
yesterday.
how long ago was that
That's
happened?
been about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Okay, so that was before they started
That,
giving NIL money.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was yeah, that's
yeah,
yeah. It was before.
that,
That
yeah.
was when
So,
Auburn first started getting rolling with their basketball program. I mean, started
uh,
winning games.
yeah, because Bruce Pearl showed up and started paying players because he knew this is the only way you're going to get players to Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah.
you know,
They have
so that
yeah.
well, there was a whole deal about Calipari playing players in Massachusetts. Marcus Camby, you know, show up in his Ferrari. You're like, how did he get that Ferrari? Well, his boosters were always circling around the schools, right?
That
Ed
was
O'Bannon,
back in the 90s.
yeah. So,
You're really giving it away.
yeah. So anyway, so now boosters really get an opportunity to pay the players with their NIL collective. So anyway, but yeah, there's been many colleges being put on probation because they, bought somebody a cheeseburger or, did a favor for somebody, bought somebody some shoes and then somebody turned them in for this or that and or other. But, there's also people that were, buying players Ferraris. So, anyway, but now the NCAA is pretty much irrelevant. There's only two rule makers now, the Big Ten and the SEC. They make the rules. Is that right?
I
So
wonder how did they eat before NIL? Like we're on road trips. I assume the
oh,
school
the school would have a thing that they
credit
could
cards that
eat.
they.
Yeah.
That's how we did it. I played NIA, and that's how we always did the.
Mm,
The coach would just go play. He'd go have a credit card and just pay for all our food.
yeah.
It was a private school, so they could do anything they wanted, really. But I didn't know how. I mean, I know the NCAA was strict, so I just didn't know exactly how to do it. I've never played that high of a level, but
Yeah.
the coaches can't take his personal money and buy a guy a cheeseburger or shoes, something like
Yeah.
that nature.
That's right. So anyway, they still can't because the NCAA sets out rules about all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, so I think every player who gets NIL money should send Ed O'Bannon $100 because he's the one that got this ball rolling. It would eventually happen anyway, but he was the first guy to stick his neck out there and say, you know what, this is just wrong. So that's
And
what
this whole
happened.
thing started in 2015. They started the lawsuit around 2015. Ed O'Bannon.
Let's see here, September 30, 2015. A judge declared it was a violation of the federal antitrust law.
Not long after he retired from basketball. So that sounded like he was about to run out of money anyway.
Well, no, he his senior season was 1995, and he didn't have a very good NBA career.
Well, he played overseas for.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he played. He got drafted by the Nets, but he played for John Calipari. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And
Yeah.
he played for maybe a couple other NBA teams, and then he played overseas for the rest of his career, maybe another 8 years or something.
Okay.
He played for a while, but he just wasn't good enough for the NBA.
Yeah. So anyway, so then after all this happened, he's like, you know what? I'm going to get some money off of the NCAA because what they did, what they're doing to me and all these other players. So how about that? Well, anyway, that's all I got about Ed O'Bannon and his lawsuit over the NCAA and what started the ball rolling to get NIL money. So I can say, another one is Johnny Mizell, who built Texas A&M to the program it is today.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Man, that guy, his football career, professional football career wasn't successful. He only played a couple years. And I don't even know what he's doing anything now or what, but I don't feel as bad for the guys that like Reggie Bush that are like, they're all in the sports world on TV and all that, so they're doing fine. But like Johnny Manziel, I don't know if he's even doing anything with his life, and he could have had all that money. He still got a lot on the table, but
Hey, there's a lot of players that played and you never heard of them and never got anything at all. So it's tough out there, but it's all working out better for them, with, at least they're getting paid some money to play football. Yeah, they still get a scholarship too, but
yeah, that's irrelevant now.
It's kind of irrelevant now.
Yeah, I don't even talk about that.
No, they don't even discuss
my
it.
education's paid for. Oh,
yeah.
Well, I need money.
Money. Need more money.
They're not even aware of, I would say at least 50% of the people in the country or more probably have student loan debt.
Yeah, that's right. So
I know I do.
Yeah, I do. No, I paid mine off a long time ago. So
I'm
all right,
there.
Ryan. So if that's all you got for today, then we'll close this show out and move on to the next topic next week. So remember, folks, if you're out there, please like and subscribe to the Sports Economy Show because we need to go $1 zillion because we're going to help Ryan and several other players pay off their student loan debts.
That's right.
I want everybody.
Want to get it paid off this year.
There you go. What a bargain.
So long, everybody.